Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Gallagher. I hope that you are having a great day, and this is the first of some Bible classes that we're going to do, and we're calling it a Bible class for kids who love the Bible. Now, I know that right now you're staying at home and you're not being able to see all of your friends at school, and you're not being able to play with those that you normally would play with. But today we're going to try to make it a little bit better, and we're going to talk about what it means to be a friend. So if I was to ask you, who is your friend, what names would you think of? What people would you think of? When you think of those people, ask yourself the question, how do you treat them? So how do you treat people? How do we treat people? Do we treat them in a way that we would want to be treated? Are we kind? Are we nice? What kind of things do we say about other people? All of these things are very important as we talk about what it means to be a friend. Now, today, what we're going to do is we're going to open our Bibles and we're going to look at the story of the Good Samaritan in Luke chapter 10. Now, if you want to go find your Bible, I'll give you just a moment, and we're going to find Luke chapter 10. Now, the book of Luke is found in the New Testament. It is the third book in the New Testament, right after Mark. The New Testament goes Matthew, Mark, then Luke. And when we find Luke, we want to go to chapter 10. So once you're in Luke, just look for the number 10 for a chapter, and we're going to turn there. And once you get to Luke chapter 10, we're going to go down to Luke chapter 10, and we're going to start reading in verse 30. And we're going to talk about the parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, Jesus tells this parable after he has been asked a lot of questions, and people want to try to figure out what Jesus knows. So when he was asked all of these questions, Jesus responded with a parable. Now, here's something I really want you to learn today. I want you to learn what a parable is. A parable is a story, but it's not just any story. A parable is an earthly story with a heavenly meaning. What that really says is a parable is a story that you and I can understand, but that parable talks about heaven. So as people who go to church and people who want to follow God, these are really important because they help us to understand how we're supposed to live here on earth. So one of the things that we want to remember is that a parable is an earthly story with a heavenly meaning. Now here's what Jesus says. Now this is in Luke chapter 10 and verse 30. He says, a man was going from Jerusalem to Jericho. So Jerusalem was a city in Israel, and Jericho was right near it. And it was going to take him several hours just to walk from Jerusalem to Jericho. But Jesus says that this man was going from Jerusalem to Jericho. He was going on a trip. Maybe he was going to see his friends. Maybe he was going to see his family. We really don't know, but we do know that he was going on this trip. But something happened to him. As Jesus tells the story, we find out that this man was hurt, because it says he fell among robbers who took his clothes and they beat him up. Then they left, and they left him almost half dead. So he was almost dead when they left him there. So instead of being happy and joyful to be able to see his friends or maybe to see his family, instead he got beat up on the road. And they took everything that he had with him. They even took a lot of his clothes. They probably took his money. Maybe they took the things that he had and they just left him there. I'm sure that he wasn't feeling too good. He was pretty hurt. But a little bit later, there came a priest. Now, a priest was somebody who was a really good church-going person, we would think. And this priest was going down the same road. But when he saw the hurt man, Jesus says that he passed by on the other side. So when he saw him, he didn't even go to help him. Instead, he went by on the other side. He just left the hurt man there. So then, Jesus says, a little bit later, there came a Levite, another really good person, but something happened. It says, when a Levite came, he came to the place where the hurt man was, and when he saw him, he walked by on the other side. So even the Levite, a good person, he still walked by on the other side. Now maybe they didn't know what to do, but they didn't help the hurt man. Remember, the hurt man was probably going to see his family or his friends, and they just walked right by. A little bit later, it says that there was a man known as a Samaritan, and the Samaritan was on a journey, so the Samaritan was traveling too. But when he came to the place where the hurt man was, it says he saw the hurt man, and he had compassion on him. That means he felt sorry for him. That means he wanted to help him. But the Samaritan, he didn't walk by on the other side. Instead, Jesus says that what the Samaritan did was the Samaritan bandaged up the hurt man, and he let him ride on his own animal, which means the Samaritan had an animal with him. It could have been a camel, could have been a donkey, could have been something like that. But the Samaritan bandaged up the hurt man and let the hurt man ride on his animal, and he took him to an inn, or kind of like a hotel. And he took him there so he could take care of him. And he took care of him overnight. Then after that, the Samaritan, he had to still go on his journey. So Jesus says that the next day, the Samaritan took out some money, the money called denarii. And it says he gave them to the innkeeper, to the person in charge of the inn. And he told the innkeeper, he said to take care of him, and whatever you spend, if it's more than this, then I'm going to repay you when I come back. So the Samaritan not only got the guy a room at the inn, but he also asked somebody to take care of him. He just wanted to help the hurt man because he knew that the hurt man, he really needed some help. So when Jesus tells this story, and after he's done telling this parable, he asks the question, which was a better neighbor to the hurt man? Jesus is asking which person did the right thing. It's sort of like our questions we asked at the very beginning. Who is your friend? And when you think of your friends, how do we treat those people? Are we kind to those people? Are we nice to them? What kind of things do we say about other people? But maybe a really good question we need to think about is, how do we treat those people? Do we treat other people like we want to be treated? Remember, two people walked by the hurt man, but the Samaritan stopped and helped him out. He had compassion on him because he knew he needed help. So when we see people that need help, maybe it's our brothers or maybe it's our sisters and they need help. Maybe they need help cleaning up. Maybe they need help doing something around the house. Can we help them? Can we be there to make sure that we're treating them like we would want to be treated? Because when we want help, we need people to help us. So are we going to help them? What about the ways that our mom and dad need help? Maybe there's something that we can do to help them out today. Maybe we could help them by keeping our rooms clean. Maybe we could help them by helping clean up around the house when that's needed. Because a lot of us are inside right now because we don't get a chance to go to school because there's a really bad virus. And we want to stay safe, so we're staying at home, but maybe there's something that we could do. So here's what I want to ask you to do. Today, why don't you take out a sheet of paper and write down the names of your friends? And you can also write down what it means to be a friend. Remember our questions? Are we kind? Are we nice? What kind of things do we say to other people? What kind of language do we use? What kind of words do we use? But also remember, do we treat other people like we would like to be treated. Let's be sure that we're going to do that today. And also on your sheet of paper, why not make a list of things that you could do to help your friends out? I think that would be a great way that we could start this week, is to go through that list and see how that we could help other people and how we can be like the Good Samaritan. I hope you have a great day today, and I hope that you'll come back and see us next Tuesday when we're going to talk more about the words that Jesus said while he walked on this earth, and how that you and I can use those each and every day. But once again, I hope you have a great day, and be sure to help people out today, and be sure that you're being the friend that you would want to have. What